Amnesty International says the future of its struggle for human rights around the world will be decided at its annual assembly in Johannesburg over the weekend. The group's annual General Assembly will discuss human rights issues relating to indentured labour, climate change, the rights of refugees and the right to protest in countries like Turkey, Venezuela and Zimbabwe. The Secretary-General of Amnesty International, Kumi, joins us now via Skype. Kumi, good evening to you. Thank you for your time today. I know you'll be very busy ahead of this General Assembly. The struggle for human rights seems to have shifted focus. 20 years ago, it was largely about prisoners of conscience, people in jail for political reasons. Now you include issues of climate change, for example.
Thank you, and thank you for having us, and greetings to your viewers. Basically, there are different human rights. There are civil and political rights which relate to detention without trial, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of expression. Then there are also socio-economic rights which deal with the right to land, right to food, the right to livelihood, and so on. And of course, we also have rights which have been enshrined now, which are called intergenerational rights. And so when you look at it, the current adult political and business leadership are failing dismally the human rights of current and future generations. So you have to have today a much more nuanced view of understanding how the different rights actually connect. And what we say in the human rights field, if one set of rights falls or exists, then all your human rights are actually threatened.
And what we see, obviously, around the world is the poorer you are, the more vulnerable you are. You might be living on the coast, but if you're living in a rich part of California and the level of the Pacific rises because of climate change, you're probably all right. If you're poor and living in the Maldives, you might literally have nowhere to live.
Absolutely. People must remind themselves, sometimes people say, save the planet, save the climate, and so on. The planet actually doesn't need saving. If we continue on the suicidal path that we are on, with our addiction to oil, coal and gas and other dirty economic activities, the end result will be we warm the planet up to a point where we deplete our water, soil and so on, and we will be gone as a species. The planet will actually still be here. So we need to understand the struggle to avert catastrophic change is nothing more, nothing less than protecting our children and their futures, and it's their human rights that we need to stand up for now. And we have to understand that the struggles that people face are not connected. They are all, as the women's movement says, intersectionally connected.
We're beginning to lose you a little on the Skype line, Kumi, but I am going to try and continue if we can. One of the big issues for the moment is the Chinese government in Beijing. I would imagine that situation is quite difficult for you as Amnesty International to actually deal with.
Absolutely. We have an office in Hong Kong, and we were very involved. We were able to capture by police, which were put up all over the community. We like to believe that it contributed to supporting the struggles of people there. But it's important to note that the attack on the right of people to be able to peacefully protest and assemble and so on is not only threatened in Hong Kong, Philippines, in many countries across the African continent, and even in countries that claim to be promoters of democracy. I mean, if we look at the United States today, under Donald Trump, the U.S. is one of the worst human rights violators that we are seeing. If we look at the way immigrants and refugees are treated at the border, where people, children are separated from the children and put in cages. So we need to recognize that human rights is slipping backward badly, and people who care about human rights need to get actively involved now and recognize that we cannot sit on our laurels. Human rights are under threat. We need to intensify our efforts to protect all of human rights, whether it's women's rights, whether it's labor rights, or whether it's life fighting climate change.
I mean, if we look at this, for example, you'll see countries that claim to have proud human rights records, and yet the way they treat refugees shows that they seem to only have proud human rights records when they're treating their own citizens.
Absolutely. I do want to back up what you said. There's a refugee camp in Kumi, Kenya, which has been there for decades, with about close to 8,000 people. I visited there in August last year. It was no paradise, but people had a measure of decency in the way that they were I went to Greece a month later, which is in Europe, one of the richest parts of the world, the part of the world, by the way, that refugee law was developed for when people were fleeing Europe after the Second World War and so on. And the refugee camp I saw in Lesbos, Greece, was one of the worst refugee camps I've been to. We need to say that of Europe that if the refugee laws that developed after the Second World War was right for the people of Europe, it's right for the people of Africa, it's right for the people of Central America. And so people are simply trying to access rights enshrined in international law. Donald Trump and the Republican Party clearly are ignoring their international obligations as well as ignoring the legislation that's happening in Europe itself.
All right, we're going to leave it there, I'm afraid. I'm so sorry about that. Just the quality of that Skype call, always very unpredictable. Kumi Naidoo is the Secretary General of Amnesty International.